So while your clients may not always come first, they are certainly important and you need to know how to serve them well. And that means dealing with their expectations. At its most fundamental, clients have three areas that they care about the most. They want things done properly, they want them on time, and they want them on budget. These are the three most significant expectations that clients are going to have of you. And the question of the moment is not what they are, because those are fairly universal needs that most people have for most service providers. The question for you is to consider, how are you going to ensure that you are going to deliver on those expectations? The first part I wanted to mention is that you need to know what those expectations are. Leaving unstated timeframes is always a danger, because your client will probably expect that you can do it faster than what you can actually do it. So you need to manage that expectation. Certainly you're almost inevitably required by legislation or by your ethical duties to let your clients know how much something is going to cost. And of course your clients assume that it's going to be done properly. Now, the question of management is usually one of unspoken assumptions when it comes to expectations. You need to ensure, so far as it's up to you, and I accept that sometimes young lawyers in particular just get these expectations lumped on them by their supervisors or whatever. So within that, to the extent that it's up to you, how can you manage the expectations? There is that concept that you can think about of under-promise and over-deliver. And that has some merit because of the perception of it. If I tell you something's almost certainly going to take 2 weeks and cost $10,000, and it takes 1 week and costs $5,000, then you're going to go, hey, wow, that was great. I appreciated that. On the flip side, if I tell you something's going to take 2 days and cost $3,000, but it takes 7 days and costs $5,000, then you'll be less happy. And the outcome was exactly the same in both of those situations, but the expectation was different because of what I had said, how I had set it up. So the under-promise, over-deliver thing has some benefits. The downside is that constantly under-promising you can come across as fairly negative if you're not very careful about how you do it. So what I would generally suggest is that ensuring your promises are both acceptable to your client, but not completely under-promising. I could tell you, oh, I'll definitely get you that advice inside 1 year from today, but that's not going to be very helpful. I would still be under-promising, but it's not going to be helpful for my practice because I'm under-promising by so much that you're probably going to go somewhere else. So you need to be careful about that. The other thing you need to be careful about if you're having these conversations with your clients and managing their expectations is that your capacity to deliver on something in some way is normally going to be affected by the capacity of those around you. So if you're promising that something can be done in 24 hours and you're relying on the fact that Mary down the hallway has nothing to do during that 24 hours and that she can help you, but as it turns out Mary is in fact really, really busy, then that's going to throw you immediately. So when you are managing these expectations, you need to do so being conscious of what's going on around you, especially if your work needs to be revised or settled or supervised or amended by your supervising partner. So if you have a process that needs to be undertaken that involves other people, make absolutely sure that they are involved, or at the very least you know enough of what's going on and how they work in order to capture that. This particularly comes up in cost. A lot of young lawyers have a tendency to estimate for their own time, but really, really heavily underestimate what it's going to take for someone to appropriately supervise them. To some extent this comes with practice, but to some extent it just comes because you actually have to think about it. So I haven't dealt with the quality of the work yet. And the truth is that most clients expect that you will deliver high quality work. They expect that you will do the job properly. They expect that you will do all the necessary research. They expect that you will answer all the questions they've asked and possibly some of the questions they haven't asked if they are relevant. So that is always the unspoken expectation. It's generally the other two that have a tendency to become a little wishy-washy if they're not spelled out in detail. So, managing client expectations, how are you going to go about it? And that is what I want you to think about for today. When you next have an opportunity to do so, how are you going to come up with your estimates of cost and time? What things are you going to factor in? How are you going to ensure that what you're promising at the very least can be delivered on, but hopefully you can aspire to delivering better, that is, cheaper and faster results for this particular client. It will always be the better place to aim. If at all possible, there is some beauty in over-promising and over-delivering, if you can do it consistently. Think about that. If you can over-promise and over-deliver, then that's going to put you in good stead. But it is hard to execute, in particular if you're relying on other people. So how are you going to go about it? How are you going to manage the expectations? What process are you going to do? Jot down those notes, because managing client expectations is a big part of having happy clients. At the end of the day, if their expectations are met, they will probably think, meh, not bad. If their expectations are wildly exceeded in some way, then you have a good shot at them becoming raving fans, referring you more work, bringing more work to you, depending on what your area is. Think about it, jot down your notes on this topic, and I'll see you in the next one.